What is sleep apnea? Have you ever heard someone snore, gasp, and then choke for air while they're sleeping? And this doesn't happen just once, but several times during the night. It starts to get quite frightening. It isn't something you need to call the fire department for, but you can definitively say that there's something not quite right. What you can suspect is that this person might be suffering from a sleeping disorder called sleep apnea. If you or someone you know suffers with sleep apnea, keep watching because in this video we will discuss what sleep apnea is and how it's diagnosed. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to Snooze Insider and click on the bell icon to get notified for our latest videos. Information on everything we've talked about will be in the description down below. Sleep apnea is a sleeping disorder characterized by loud snoring and stop and start to breathing throughout the night. A person suffering from sleep apnea may feel like they've been hit by a truck when they wake up, despite having slept for the entire night. This disorder, although seemingly quite scary, is relatively common amongst people. It affects people from all age range. However, studies have shown it to be more common amongst men compared to women and children. The risk for sleep apnea is also increased once you are in your 50s. If untreated, sleep apnea can lead to high blood pressure, hypertension, heart failure, stroke, and diabetes, just to name a few. Aside from the medical complications, sleep apnea can cause stress to someone's job and personal life. There are 3 different types of sleep apnea, and they all differ from each other. Obstructive sleep apnea. Obstructive sleep apnea is a more common form of sleep apnea and is caused by the narrowing or blockage of the airway when the back throat muscles relax. With the airway restricted, you can't get enough air into your body, which lowers the oxygen levels being delivered to the brain. The brain senses this reduction in oxygen level and decides to play hero and briefly wake you up from sleep so that you can open your airway. It happens so briefly that you typically don't remember it. However, this may give the person sleeping beside you a sudden scare. This can occur about 5 to 30 times each hour, all through the night, impairing your ability to experience deep, restful sleep. You may choke, gasp, or snort whenever this happens. Excess weight, thicker necks, inherited narrowed airways, enlarged tonsils, nasal congestion, and heart diseases can increase the risk of obstructive sleep apnea in people. Central sleep apnea. Central sleep apnea is very different than obstructive sleep apnea. Where obstructive sleep apnea has to do with the restriction in the airway, central sleep apnea happens when the brain doesn't send proper signals to the muscles in charge of breathing. Even though breathing is hardwired into the brain, for people suffering from central sleep apnea, the task of breathing is impaired. You may wake up with shortness of breath or have difficulty staying asleep or getting to sleep. Central sleep apnea is more common in people 60 years old and above, people with irregular heartbeats where the heart doesn't pump enough blood throughout the body, drug users, and people who have suffered from a stroke. Mixed sleep apnea. Mixed sleep apnea is also called complex sleep apnea syndrome or treatment-emergent central sleep apnea. As the name suggests, this type of sleep apnea occurs when someone is suffering from both obstructive and central sleep apnea. Double the trouble. The symptoms of obstructive and central sleep apnea overlap, so it may be difficult to determine each type precisely. However, the general symptoms of someone with mixed sleep apnea include loud snoring enough to rattle the house, gasping for air during sleep, dry mouth, morning headaches, insomnia, and briefly stop breathing completely. There are 2 types of diagnostic tests for sleep apnea: polysomnography and home sleep apnea test. Polysomnography is also known as a sleep study, and it's done in a sleep laboratory with experts. These experts hook you up to equipment that monitor your body's activities and blood oxygen levels while you sleep. Imagine being in a sci-fi horror film where you are a subject of some mad scientist's experiment. You are laying down flat with wires and cables attached to your head. Just kidding. You may feel like a lab rat when you wake up, but it's no different than a checkup at the hospital. A home sleep apnea test is a way to avoid that horror sci-fi scene. This test is best for people with just mild sleep apnea. It's basically a simplified version of the polysomnography that you can administer yourself in the comfort of your own home. However, this test doesn't register as much as the polysomnography. If the home sleep apnea test doesn't get conclusive information on your sleeping disorder, you may have to go in for the polysomnography for further testing. If I were to be hooked up to a machine, I don't think I'd be able to sleep, but that's just me. Have you ever experienced sleep apnea? Let us know in the comments below. Also, stay tuned for our next videos where we uncover how to conquer your sleep apnea. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up so we can continue making them. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and remember to click on the bell notification. Share this with a friend if you think they may need a little wake-up call. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Until then, sleep well.